in the kingdom, can't turn around. We're lighting up the night, shaking up the ground. Excuses and flames, yeah, we're breaking free. One big fire, this is our legacy.
Welcome to the One Big Fire podcast.
What's up, my dog?
Mr. Jay Kinder, coming from Frisco, Texas.
Yes, sir.
And, man, Cleveland's hitting those 80s and 90s. We're baking up here.
It's hot, baby. It's hot down here.
Is it?
Yeah. It's hot. We're here. It's summer.
It's cooking, baby.
Yeah. No doubt about that.
So we got a great lineup here today. We did not come aboard live last week. We had a busy week. Talk a little bit about that here. But one of the things I did, and I was texting with you while I was there, and it just tied in so good to, a lot of things we were talking about last week, and it was Megan Maroney. You remember, it was, if you could believe it, man, 4 years ago, Megan Maroney played for us a private event in the basement speakeasy of the Virgin Hotel. You remember that?
Yeah, dude, that was what an epic get together, man. That was one of the many experiences that I'll never forget. Like that was a good experience. But she was so, well, first of all, what a blessing to just get to hear her do her thing, you know what I'm saying, in such a small venue. And that was a private room below that was it was filled with Johnny Cash's personal belongings, and it's like some kind of fancy club. Shout out to Dusty Black for getting us in there because you had to be a member. Super limited, but to be able to see those bands play and see her play in that venue was epic.
So we're going to talk a little bit about Megan and that journey and how cool that was from 4 years to now. It's just really cool. We're going to dig a little bit into Alfred. Let's meet Alfred, the AI coach, the agent that Jeff Chiani and Harley built for the Honey Badger Nation. I've been using it every day. Alfred's been great for me. We're going to talk a little bit about that.
Yep.
We're going to talk about a topic you and I love a lot. That's SpaceX.
Yeah.
IPO day. I just
Coming
put a post up. IPO day. Remember that part in Wolf of Wall Street where he found the guy cleaning his fishbowl out on IPO day? They were taking. Who were they taking public? It was Steve Madden. Steve Madden. They were taking Steve Madden public, and he came over. He's like, "You're cleaning your fishbowl on IPO day." I found a pic of that, him eating the goldfish. But Friday's going to be a big day for the world, really. But for SpaceX and especially investors in SpaceX, which I know you and Mike and myself are very fortunate to get in on that. That's super exciting where that's going to go. We'll talk a little Spurs Knicks action. The Spurs knocked the Knicks off their 13-game winning streak. That was just incredible.
Yeah.
They rolled right over the Cavs. And man.
A lot of exciting things going on right now. That's for sure.
I'm man.
I've got some things I haven't even shared with you. I can't. I'm keeping my powder dry, but I'm fully vetting something that I've already vetted it to a point that they solved the right problem for most. I'll give a teaser for most. So the biggest challenge right now in agentic AI is the setup, and it could be way better. Like anybody who's gotten into it would be like, yeah, you just gotta muscle through and figure it out. That's how you figure it out. 99.9% of the population is not using agentic AI. If you are, put it in the comments if you're using it. If you're not, and you're like, man, this is just, I don't know how to do it. If you ran into the wall and said, okay, this ain't for me, there's a solution out there that somebody built that if you had it, you would immediately have a whole team of IA agents working for you without any of this difficulty and setup. Everything that the problems that I've encountered, when he read the customer problem and was going through it with me, I was like, bro, that's exactly how I feel. That's exactly how I feel. So I know that it's how everybody else feels because I muscled through it, but it's going to be it's $50 a month. It's not expensive, but it's a full everything you need, all so simple to use, and you have agents doing work without all these API calls and all this other crazy stuff that us non-techie right brainers don't know how to do for the most part. But I'm teasing that, but that's it's a guy I know from Puerto Rico that built this, and they're fully funded. And it's,
dude, I want to hear about it, because for $50 a month, that would have been saving me so much time. I spent 2 hours over the weekend building an AI agent that would take my Zoom notes and automatically enter them into the notes section of Go High Level, so that I wouldn't have to just write notes on my Zooms, and it would just automatically connect to the contact. Yep. And it didn't work.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like,
it's not. I mean, it's incredible. It can do anything, but man, you do have. I worked probably 3 or 4 hours on Friday and 3 or 4 hours on Saturday with Codex, just getting the proper setup. I mean, you go through the same thing every time, and so I've set up Claude, OpenClaw, and Codex, and I went through the same challenges. I'm like, man, the way I have to communicate. Think about this, like. It's incredible when you got it up and going, incredible. But the fact that I've got to set up a fucking Slack channel and that's how I have to communicate to this thing is retarded. Like, that's not how it should be. Like, you should not have to set up Slack or Telegram, or it's just that does not feel natural. It's not a natural way for you to organize a lot of work that gets done and communicate back and forth. And so there's layers to this that you can solve and fix, but you got to figure that all out. And there's a solution out there. Nobody knows about it, but it just came out, and it's going to be a big deal for the 99% of people that ain't never going to figure out this stuff is what it looks like. But anyway, yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot.
Let's dig into that when we talk about Alfred, because you got me curious now, and you did make a statement when you were building your entire system out over there. Was it Elon? No, yours isn't Elon. Yours is
Jarvis.
Jarvis, yeah. When you were building Jarvis out, you were like, "Hey, if you wait, this is going to be easier." You did say that.
It hasn't. They're going to get there, I think. But what I asked this guy, because this is a guy I respect. I know him, and I know what he's built. This is a $1 billion guy with a bunch of funding, and they've done some shit before. So I'm not second guessing the talent around him. But the what was I going to say? I forgot what I was going to say.
All good. Let's dig in.
ADHD moment. We can talk about Alfred. You want to dig into Alfred? Where do you want to start?
No, let's start with Megan. Megan.
Right.
Yeah, Megan. So 4 years ago, there might have been like 40 EXP recruiters in the room. Jay, you and I were asked to host this event. Dustin Black helped us line up about, I don't know, it was like 4 or 5 local Nashville country artists that were kind of on their way up, so to speak, right?
Yep.
Megan was one of them. She hadn't hit yet. There was no arena, no massive crowd. It was like 40 of us in a room. And I actually pulled a video up of it. And it was funny because she's up there playing on a stool with her acoustic. And it was funny because in the video, everybody's like talking and having conversations.
Yeah.
And not many, I mean, like half the room was paying attention to her. She was awesome. I love, her lyrics were like borderline, like she likes to throw like kind of like dirty lines in there and everything and being playful up there. It was awesome. But she was young. We paid her $500 cash, if you remember. Yep. She put on this amazing show. And fast forward to this weekend, or actually, I take that back, last weekend in Columbus, we saw her in concert. Her first arena tour, 20,000 people in the building. It's where Ohio State basketball plays. That's where she played. And I'm going to tell you, dude, I saw something I've been to so many concerts like you, right? Where the crowd loves the person or whatever, but we were the only ones that didn't know every word to every dang song. She was emotional up there, as she should have been, right? I mean, this was her moment, and it wasn't luck. She started in the small rooms. She paid her dues. And, that arena that she was playing for wasn't built like that. It started in basements, in little tiny bars in Nashville and all around wherever she played. and now her market is no longer a basement. Her market she's filling arenas.
Yeah.
And because she paid her dues, man. What a
Did
great
the
night.
work.
Yeah.
There ain't no shortcut, fellas, ladies and gentlemen. There is no shortcut. The way through is to do the work. There ain't no other way.
Well, and that's the thing with real estate too. I mean, agents, same thing. They want the arena. As soon as they get their license, they're like, all right, where's the arena? You know? And the truth is we got to pay our dues in the basement first. I mean, we had to do it through making calls, getting hung up on, going to appointments, not getting them. You know, on the outset, you could look at this as like, man, $500. I'm playing for 40 people. Like, man, I don't want to do this. Or you can fall in love with that. And that's what you have to do. You got to fall in love with, man, that's 40 more people that are going to be following me on Instagram. That's 40 more people that are going to know my name. That's 40 more people that are going to share a song. That's, that you got to, but that's what you got to do. Just if it's making calls, you got 40 more calls you got to make to find that one that might be send you 10 referrals over your lifetime. You don't know. Do the work. Don't get caught up in thinking it's not worth your time. So Jay, when you hear pay your dues in this market, we paid our dues back in different markets. We paid our dues in good markets. We paid our dues in 08, 2009, 10, that nightmare. We paid our dues. This is different dues though. And when we talk about paying the dues, we're talking about still, it always boils down to the basics, having short-term memory loss on, getting hung up on, things of that nature. What dues are you seeing agents are forced to pay now? Because it's a different set of dues right now.
Yeah, dude. So this past week I went to dinner, me and Amber, Mike and Stacy, Alex Piak, and Sarah. And Alex is, he's in the game. He's got listings and he's doing business and stuff here in Frisco. And he's like, dude, it's tough right now. Like houses aren't selling. Average days on the market 7, and he knows the market. 78 days on the market, existing. He's got houses he can't get sold. He's like, I don't even want listings. I just want buyers that want to buy. I started thinking, I was like, man, I remember what average. I started with average days on the market of 120. It was insane. Most listings didn't sell. You know what I'm saying? Like, but that didn't change my approach. And what I feel like's happening across the country, and it may be different in different markets, because I talked to a lot of people in a lot of different markets, and there are a lot of different things going on here in Frisco. What it feels like's happening is new construction is offering incentives that are hard to beat. And when markets start to slow down or shift or prices start to come down, it doesn't start at new construction. It starts the gap between existing homes and new construction has to get big enough that the existing homes now become a good enough deal that people will buy them. That's what I feel like happens. And it feels like that's what's happening now is you can go buy this house in this neighborhood, which used to be $750, or you go buy new construction and they're going to buy your rate down to 3.9%. They're going to pay all your closing costs. There are all these incentives that they're doing. And, I'm going to go, I can afford brand new. I'm going to buy brand new. And so I think you're going to see in a lot of markets where, and again, 70 something days on the market, and Alex knows he knows his stuff, but that's, if it doesn't sell in the first 45 days, it probably don't sell, but you gotta, and I said, well, in my experience, that means that price, he's like, man, I know what you're saying, but when it looks like you're the best priced property on the market and you still don't have enough offers, it's like, okay, well, how many showings is it getting? If you get 8 to 10 showings, you should have an offer. If you didn't get 8 to 10 showings, you ain't low enough. Like you got to have that mentality and be communicating with your seller. Hey, listen, do you want to be one of the ones that sells or one of the ones that doesn't sell? Because there's 8 months worth of inventory on the market. That means this month 2 homes are going to sell in this neighborhood. Do you want to be one of the 2 or not? And here's what you need to do that. And it's going into the summertime. You'd think things would be picking up, but I think you got to be aggressive with communicating what's going on in the market. Understand how many. This was the only thing, and doing thousands and thousands of listing appointments. The thing that I keyed in on where I knew where I could get a house sold or not was how many homes in the price bracket that you're in, all the things that you could be looking at. And my market was, pretty much Lawton, right? The whole damn market. So like you can live in a bunch of different neighborhoods, bunch of different age homes, this and that and the other. And it's a little bit different when you zeroed in on a neighborhood, because some neighborhoods are big enough you can have enough comps to say, okay, hey, there's one house or two houses or five houses a month selling in this neighborhood, but they might choose across the street that neighborhood. That this person that's looking isn't saying, hey, I just want to live in this neighborhood. So you got to look at the overall marketplace of what choices people have within a certain, a certain geographic area and age bracket of homes, and then say, okay, how many homes are selling a month historically? How many are on the market? And then in the next 30 days, how many are going to sell? And when you understand only 3 out of 28 homes or whatever that number is are going to sell, that's a small percentage. And if you want to be one of the ones that sells in the next 60 days, there's 6 of them are going to sell, not counting new inventory that's coming on the market. You got to do that homework, and you got to be they're not going to willingly go like, you don't think we should be a little bit lower? They're not going to do that. You have to be the one to convince them that, hey, and that's what I would do. I had to do it every damn listing appointment, because nobody wants to be the lowest. Nobody wants to be priced. They're all hopeful, right? They're using hope as a strategy. Maybe it'll sell for the top. No, in this market right now, I would print it out, dude. I would have the whole list of homes. Like, here's how many homes are on the market, page after page after page. All right. And then right here, I'd highlight it in yellow, and I would, at the very top, there'd be, 3 line item. These 5 homes are going to sell. And then right here where this yellow line is, the rest of these homes, this page, this page, this page,
yeah,
this page, those homes aren't going to sell. You said you want to be sold in 60 days. Where do you think we need to be positioned in order to be one of the homes that sell and not one of the homes that don't sell?
I used to put out the whole expired list. I'd put here are all the homes that were listed, and in the last 6 months all failed to sell. And in the times that you were talking about, remember 08, 09?
Yeah,
list was huge.
Oh, dude.
Dollars off.
This is nothing like 07, 08. And anybody that's been through 07, 08 will tell you the same thing. The prices came down so fast, you couldn't, you try to talk to a seller and let me think about it. Next week they call you, be like, yeah, that price no longer. You need to be lower than that. And prices came down a lot faster than it's like a ball rolling off a table. It was incredible.
Yeah.
So this isn't like that, but this is just sales skills, right? You have to A, know your shit. Okay. And B, you have to be very able to persuade and convince them to listen to you. And that's a skill set. The skill set is you have to know your shit. Okay. You have to know your shit. That means be an expert. And if you're not an expert and all the data that I was just talking about, and you can't, you don't know for sure and you're uncomfortable, you need to be doing homework every day until you understand what's going on in the marketplace. That's number 1, know your shit. Number 2, you got to be able to connect and become their best friends. And then you got to be able to switch to becoming the authority figure and prescribe to them a plan without breaking rapport. And if you can do that, then they'll listen to you. When they go, damn, this guy knows what he's talking about, we should probably listen to him. But if you can't figure out what it is hey man, what are y'all going to do if it doesn't sell this summer? Well, shit, people that I watch, sellers will go like, this is what happened. Like in the military town. So they're leaving PCS. They're out of here. That house is vacant by end of July. And after that, they're thinking it's sold. In their mind, they're like, yeah, it'll probably sell by then. So what happens if you still own this house and it's September? And they go, well, we already be paying for another house. We'll be gone. They're thinking they never in their mind dreamed of this house still being for sale in September. And it'll say, well, no, that ain't gonna work. I mean, like, you remember Johnny left here. He rented his house. We ain't doing that. Like, we're going to it has to be sold by then. I said, okay, well, based on what you're telling me, then you give me permission. I'm going to tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. Is that okay with you? And they're like, yeah, well, okay. All right. But you have to have that level of authority and get an agreement and get them in agreement to hear what they need to hear, not what they want to hear. Most agents go in and do it. They think they're trying to win the listing. No, you're trying to advise them to get them to their goal, and you have to be able to convince them that you know what you're talking about and that it's in their best interest to listen to you, because they don't want to listen to, they would just choose the best agent based on who told them the highest price. I like that one. I like this one too. I like his price. I like her better. You know, like that's how they're going to make their decision on who they're choosing. You got to win them over and be connected, become their best friend. And then you got to immediately flip to becoming the authority. And you do that by knowing your shit. And that is the process. If you do that stuff out of order, you lose the listing. You get out-friended by somebody. If you've ever been out-friended, it's the worst thing in the world. So like they felt more comfortable with another agent or whatever. All of that it's a process. And, you develop that skill by, I mean, what I think is hard for most agents is until you get to a point where you're going on 3 to 5 listing appointments a day and you're iterating on what you're saying and what you're doing at every that didn't work.
Right.
Okay. Let me try it. Let me make sure I do this next time. Like until
when you're going on 3 to 5 a day, Jay, you're not pushing fantasy. You're pushing reality into their face, and the people who listen to you will be successful. But what I found, even in those markets, and I'm sure it's happening in this market here, is that agents pushing this fantasy. We know that, Realtor.com just reported that the national median price has dropped about 2.5%, which, by the way, is not a really huge dip in all reality versus the hockey stick growth that everyone's seen in equity over the last, even, I would say 10 years, specifically in 21, 22, post-pandemic, when all these prices were going crazy. Yeah, it's going to dip back and correct a little bit. So the question is, are you having reality conversations with your sellers, or are you having fantasy conversations?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And if you're having those fantasy conversations, those listings are going to sit. They are sitting, and ultimately you're punishing your own clients because you're actually helping and assisting them into refusing to face reality and just staying in this fantasy world of my home should be here, because I remember 3 years ago, my seller, my neighbor down there sold for, $800,000. So my house must be worth that now. Yeah, dude. Sharpest annual decline in data going back to 2017. But and those sound scary, that there's this big decline. It's 2.5%. It's not that much, but over year. But the pending contracts are up almost 4.5% year over year. So there are still homes selling out there. Buyers are still moving. It's not a dead market. It's just going to punish the sellers who are still
competitive. It's supply and demand. It's competitive. You have to understand. It's just competitive. You have to be priced. You have to be positioned to be one that gets looked at. And if you're not getting with the and we should chat GPT this. I'm sure there's probably a little better numbers, but we always used, man, if you get 8 showings, you should have an offer. So if you get 8 showings and you have no offers, you're probably 5% overpriced, period. That's the reality. You got 8 people that saw it online. That's the first showing. The second showing was they came and actually physically looked at the house. It was close enough. So you're probably about 5% overpriced. If you ain't getting showings, you're at least 10% overpriced. Like that's the math. If you're not, people are seeing the house online. They're like, yeah, nope, skip it. Yeah. And so, it's, price, condition, location. And the only thing you have control over as the agent is price. And you got to know your shit. Dude,
something else is happening right now that we saw a lot of back in 08, 09, 10. Obviously not the same market. We're not saying it's the same, but so Redfin reported that 5.8% of U.S. listings were pulled off the market in April. So these are sellers who came in into the market with a fantasy price. They were probably refed that fantasy by the agent that they hired, that they could get this high price that people were seeing in 2022, 2023. And then they give up, which is not a bad thing, by the way. Pulling these listings off, that tells me the seller really wasn't motivated to sell. If they have to sell, then we have to give them the right expert advice, like an expert advisor, not a salesperson who just wants the listing, to actually get it sold. Because if you list a home, Jay, we did this calculation years and years ago. how much it actually cost us, not even just in money, but in time to take a listing that's never going to sell.
Yep.
I used to tell myself, well, and I've taken listings that didn't sell. I was guilty of that back in the day a couple times until I learned my lesson. But
yeah,
I used to tell myself this bullshit lie. Well, listings have babies. And so maybe I could get some buyer leads off of it, right? And there's a little bit of truth to that, I suppose. But ultimately, you're not doing your seller a service by telling them that their house is worth $50,000 or $100,000 more. Let's just try it at this price and see what happens. I mean, what would happen if that's where everyone was doing? We'd have a bunch of listings out there that are just.
Well, guess what? I think that is what's happening. I think that's the majority of real estate agents that don't have the authority in that relationship because they're trying to win the listing. They don't have the authority to tell them what they need to hear. And there's a whole methodology we teach to this. Like that's, it's what NAEA was all about, being a certified home selling advisor and the whole process of being positioned as the expert and how you get to authority is the hardest thing as a real estate agent is, I think is demonstrating and making your value visible. And the way to do that is to be able to go through the numbers and the math and actually know your shit and show them enough of that until their eyes glaze over and they go, okay, this guy knows what he's talking about. And that's a skill set. Yeah. And you have to get them to a place where they go, well, if I tell you price, and this is the biggest mistake every real estate agent makes in pricing a house on the market, on a listing appointment, the number one thing that you're doing wrong 100% is you're going out there and you're giving them price. Like, here's what I think it's worth. That's not the game you want to play. You never give them price, ever, ever, ever. You help discover where think we need to be positioned in order to get your home sold in the time frame that you want to get it sold in. And the way you do that is that list of, hey, there's 12 homes are going to sell in the next 60 days. You told me, you guys, that's important to you that you're sold in the next 60 days. In fact, 38 or 78% of homes that go out longer than 60 days don't sell at all. It's real important that we get this position correctly. Now, there's 132 homes on the market in your price bracket between 500 and 750, or 500 to 600, depending on wherever you think that window is. That you want to be broad enough there that you catch the mystical price in their head. So like, this is why we asked on every, this is gold, dude. I hadn't taught this in a long time, but when we would do the seller counseling interview, we were like, hey, do you have an idea what your house is worth? You need to know what they're thinking. And if you don't, if you've ever been on a listing appointment and you tried to, and you did your little, here's what I think is worth, and you can see it in their face instantly that they thought it was worth more. Right. And so now you've broken rapport. Now they're like, I don't really like that at all. Like now it's you versus them. They were hoping it was worth more. Right. And so in their mind, they have a number. You need to figure out what that number is so that whatever you do, you show them a broad enough range that includes the mystical price. You're not doing this because this is how you're going to price the house. You're doing this so that you can get rapport with them, stay in rapport with them long enough to get to the point where you can tell them, here's where we probably really need to be. Right. And so because anytime
you guide them to their own decision on where they should be priced. I think that's
right. If I said, hey,
bring them to their own logical conclusion.
Yeah, but if I say, here's what, so if I use the price bracket, say 300 to 400, okay, like I think the house is probably going to be 315,000. I might pull 275 to 400,000. If they tell me on the phone that, man, we're thinking it's probably 415. If I only go to 350. 275 to 350. The minute I start showing them that data, that it turns them off, and they're like, "Oh, this guy don't know what he's talking about." They pull their arms and they sit back, and now you've lost them. And I've done it enough times that I learned that I was like, man, I can't afford to lose them at this point. I just got through connecting with them and becoming their best friend, and I ruined it by giving them a range that doesn't even include the price that they think it's worth. Yeah. So what I would do is I would raise that price to include their number, but I always got their number. I always 100% got their number. And we did it using what we call a reframe. And this is, if you've never been through Tony Robbins sales training, It's the best sales training on the planet. Number one, we bought the DVDs, trained everybody on it. I went through it many, many times, taught it. But the reframe was, you say, hey, do you have an idea what you think your home is worth? This is on before you ever get to the house. This is in the seller counts interview where you're gathering all the data. And they say, well, we were kind of hoping you could tell. Jay could tell us when he comes out, So, yeah, but if you had to guess, what do you think it was worth? So, well, we really, really don't know. He's like, well, if you had to pick a number out of there, what would you say? I asked the same question 3 times without being offensive. I reframed the question to get that number. And then that 3rd time, usually they're like, yeah, 425. I go, okay, gotcha, 425. All right. So now I know when I pull my data, I might want to go to 450 just so I don't lose them at this point. And so I'm going to pull up data that's broader. It's not wrong. It's not the wrong data, but it's not zeroed in on, I'm at the 10,000 foot view. I'm like, hey, from 275 to 450, this is how many homes are on the market. This is how many will sell in the next 90 days, which you told me is important to you. And this is how many won't sell. Where do you think we need to be positioned in order to be one of these houses that sell and not one of these homes that don't sell? That's super important. And at that point, now in their own mind, they're going, well, we better be priced right.
Yeah.
But if I come in and I say it needs to be 315, now I'm the enemy.
Yeah.
It's me versus you. I'd rather be on their side of the table with my arms around them going, what do y'all think here? Let's discover this together instead. And so that's that. And again, now that I've got them in the right frame of mind of like, we better be positioned right. Now we can go, now let's look at look at a little tighter window of where we probably should be positioned. And let's look at what this one. Now you can go into that, but you never give them price. You never give them price. You help discover price together, and they need to say yes to you because you do that high level of with all this data. You don't get down to neighborhood level. Oh, well, that house down the street. So no, we ain't talking about that yet. We ain't got to that point.
Yeah.
So before we get into determining where we want to position the home, let me show you our process for selling homes for the most amount of money. We have a proven, repeatable system backed by market research to sell homes for up to 18% more than the methods of traditional real estate agents. There's over 115 variables involved in the home selling process. It's how we manage these variables. It's going to determine whether you attract a high offer or you attract a low offer or your house doesn't sell at all. You want to attract a high offer? Yeah, we want to attract a high offer. Okay, well, let me go through that. Would you mind? No, that sounds great. Then you go through the presentation. You've never given them price. Do you think this is the best system to get your home sold for the most amount of money? They say yes to your system.
Yes.
Then, hey, where do we want to position and price the home? If they don't say yes to the system for how you're going to market and sell, you don't have any control over most of these variables. They could not mow their yard. They could be hoarders. They could be any number of things that they could do that might increase the odds of that home attracting a high offer or attracting a low offer. So all of those things are variables that determine how we're going to price. I can't give you price until I know what you're willing to do or not willing to do in order for this home to attract the highest offer. And so those are all just, again, dude, I've lost every way you could lose a listing appointment. And that's the reason I know the process. And so, but that's where I don't know who teaches this. They didn't teach me this. I learned this by beating my head against the wall, losing to Pam and Barry, losing to some random ass agent that I had never heard of in my hometown. I'm like, who the hell is that? How did they get that listing? And I'd call them and I would do an autopsy on every listing appointment. I would call back and I'd say, hey, I really appreciate the opportunity. I'd see it pop into the MLS. I'm like, God dang it, I fucking lost that one. All right. So I would call them and every time, and you're not supposed to, I don't think you're supposed to call them, but I call them every time. Because I wanted to learn. I wanted to know how I lost. I hated losing. And so they would tell me like, oh, we just felt more comfortable. And I was like, man, I rushed that whole presentation. I didn't build rapport. I didn't connect. Like I learned from it. And then I'd come back and I'd be like, you cannot skip that step. You got to do that every time or it's going to come back to, why do I want to go out there? And I just learned that, that house listed with Parks Jones from some agent that didn't know what the hell they were doing and took the listing. That house didn't sell. Their situation and their life changed because they listened. If I can't convince them to listen to me, it was on me that their house didn't sell and that their life goals changed and they got a rental property that turns into a foreclosure in 6 years or whatever, right? Like it's my job to convince you to listen to me because it's in your best interest. That's the frame you got to come from. Like you owe it to them to be able to get them to a place where they're going to look at you and say, I'm going to do whatever you tell me to do. That is what being it's like a doctor. You know what I'm saying? You wouldn't argue with your doctor. You know what I'm saying? Like you prescribe, what do you think, doc?
But I want to throw you a curveball. You ready for a curveball?
Yeah.
On baseball here. I saw a few curveballs last night, but here's your curveball. You ready, bro?
Leave it hanging.
Segment into the right into the next segment here. The difference between when you and Mike wrote the NAEA seller presentation, I followed that to the T. I listed literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of homes. Yep. My team listed hundreds of homes with that system because the principles are the principles. Yep. They're indisputable.
Yep.
From staging, preparing the home, using the best photographer, and
negotiation,
right? All those things. But there's one thing that didn't exist then, and you know what it is, and you know where I'm going to go with this. Is the sellers today are armed with an AI. They either have ChatGPT, Claude, they're using, whatever they're using out there, whatever brain they're using, they've probably already punched in the prompt. So pricing today is going to have a slightly different, because they're going to, and they might, use their AI to say, all right, yeah, but my house has a bigger patio and a deck, or no, my house has a view of the golf course, or whatever it is, to increase that. But at the end of the day, AI is going to shoot them straight and probably do a lot of heavy lifting. So here's my question to you. Would you send them a prompt and say, hey, seller counseling interview, after you've asked all the tough questions and everything, taking all that, popping it into ChatGPT, asking them, okay, hey, give me the best approach on how to approach this with pricing. Would you send that to them first before you walked in the door? Let AI be the bad guy, or would you use the AI data to be the
no,
expert?
Dude, it's two. There's two. This is why the AI.
We're going to do it, right?
Yeah. This is why AI's never. So two things. First of all, AI's never going to replace this part of the process. Okay, like you can, because they're going to put, what are they going to put into AI? They're going to be like, and our house is better, and our house has this, and ours is this, and what is AI going to do? It's going to tell them what they want to hear, not what they need to hear. That's what it's going to do.
Yeah.
And that's what, think about it. Like, that's what, we've all had these experiences. Like, here's what I'm thinking. What do you think? And be like, oh, we think that, I think that's really good. It doesn't go, sometimes it'll make an adjustment if you're way, hey, maybe you should think about this, or, here's what I think. But if you're trying to do something and you tell it, this is what they're coming from, a place of hope. And you got to come from a place of reality based on, they're never going to put into ChatGPT, hey, listen, we need this thing sold in 90 days. And we want to make sure that this house sells. We know how many homes are on the market. We know, like, they're not putting all the data in there. They're just saying here, they're asking for hope. What's the hopeful price I might be able to get?
Yeah. The one of the pieces of being an expert with AI is what to feed it, what prompt to feed it to get what you really want, not what you think you might want, but like what you really want. If you feed it, you get back out. So in my head, as you were talking and going through everything that we learned with the NAEA presentation and everything, which is what you were going over the principles.
Right.
I was thinking to myself, all of that data, I'd be copy and pasting that into AI, having it come out with what it is, or even giving that and say, based on everything you told me, I recorded everything that we have here on my sheet here. It's going to help me come to a pricing. Have you used AI? I mean, is that a question we should be putting on the seller counseling interview? What AI have you been using? Because why not see around the corner of what they're going to be, kind of challenging you with at the table?
Again, I think principally, I just want to know what you think it's worth. Like, I don't care where you could have got it from AI, you could have got it from wherever, because what I would always say to a seller is, I said, listen, you guys are hiring me to price and position your home in the market today to attract the highest possible offer. Is that right? Yeah. Okay. So what I would say is, man, when I got my real estate license, they used to teach me to do this thing called a CMA, they call it a comparative market analysis. They basically go find homes that have sold, sometimes in the last 3 months, sometimes in the last 6 months. It could be any home. It could have been that hoarders lived in that home. It could have been that the neighbors, were awful. It could have been the grass was knee high. None of that is in a CMA. But they're using historical data to try to tell you how to price and position your home in today's market. That's like looking in the rearview mirror and trying to drive forward. What you're hiring me for, I believe, or potentially hiring me for is to price and position your home to attract the highest offer. Does that make sense? And I would say, man, some agents even still use this CMA. Like, like I'd say it laughingly. What that does is it makes any stupid agent that came in there and said in terms of price, it makes them look archaic, and it creates doubt. Okay, well, they didn't they bring a CMA? Yeah, we don't do a CMA. Like we do a market absorption analysis, and that's what we're going to talk about. And so again, this is creating differentiation. But if you use I just need to know what you use the AI. I don't care what it is. It's about price and position the home, and AI is not going to go look at how many homes are on the market, how many are going to sell, going into the seasonality of the market. Like unless you ask it, if you ask it, it'll do all that. But they're not going to probably get where should we be positioned based on everything we know about the marketplace. It needs somebody to help analyze that. In today's market, what we're experiencing is there's more inventory on the market and not every home is selling. It's not a perfect science as to where you need to be positioned and priced to sell. Some people, you don't know what that person that walks in the front door is going to pick the house that's a little bit cheaper because it's on a corner lot or because it's closer to the school, or you don't know some of those nuances. But in order to be priced and positioned to sell, you better be the best deal by enough that somebody chooses yours over that one. And that's in a market that's starting to have oversupply of inventory, and timing being important. You have to be able to communicate all that to get them to maybe be priced a little lower than what the actual value may be showing in Zillow or what AI told you or whatever. And you can't argue with the data. You can argue with the data all you want. So we can do that. We can price it here. But in 30 days, we're going to sit back down and we're going to look at what's sold, what's under contract, and we're going to reposition based upon what the market is actually telling us. If we don't get 8 offers and a showing, 8 showings and an offer, then we are overpriced by at least 5%. That's what the market's telling us. So I might allow them to do that if they're motivated enough, but I'm going to still communicate. Here's what what do you think we should do if we want to be? It's not me versus you. It can't be you versus them. But I don't care how they come to whatever fictitious price they think it's going to sell for. We're going to let the data and the expertise help us get to a place where we're making the right decision so your house doesn't sell, which you told me super important. Yeah. That is, right. But I do think we would bring AI into this in a whole lot of different ways that we haven't talked about, but I don't think we have time.
Almost. So I just saw this the other day. I was at a bank sending a wire, and it was I bank at PNC, and I don't know if I heard this on the radio or if it was through PNC when I was in the bank, but they were basically going against basically the whole AI idea and promoting that we're hiring humans because you're not coming to us to speak to a machine or an AI person when you call. You actually are going to get a trained, professional, expert human being. And that was kind of like the whole movement. And about 4 weeks ago, I was telling Courtney, I'm like, I'm going to bet any money we're going to start seeing this anti-AI movement start to kind of pick up. Have you seen it where a lot of the companies are just going in the opposite direction and saying, hey, everybody's building these AI agents to talk to you on the phone, to answer your questions, all this, when all you really want is a human being, and I see that starting to kind of edge this way to appeal to the people who they're not necessarily maybe anti-AI. I know there's that movement that's out there.
There's a few.
Oh, there is
more than a few.
The people, like to the vast majority of people, whether it's an age thing, older, every age is using AI at this point. My mom still is now using it, at a very low level. But I see that moving into a direction of like, hey, so from a listing standpoint, dude, we know that most of the listing agents who are out there hitting it hard right now, they're all using AI for their CMA or whatever their whole presentation. Because in a click, you can have the whole thing done for you, and you didn't really do any of the background work. AI did all that research for you.
Yep.
And I think that there's going to be this middle point somewhere between, the agents who are just using their program that they can get a listing. I mean, I remember when I was preparing for list. I mean, that was one of the most time-consuming pieces. And when you're doing 2 or 3 a day, you can think about all the work that was put in. I mean, a lot of it we had our assistants doing for us, but we still had to know the data. You can't just not know it. And I don't know. I kind of see that, but this is a great segue into our next segment about AI.
What? So
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, just, how I want to go over how we're using AI to put more money in agents' pockets. Because at the end of the day, we can build 1 million agents. We can have an army of AI agents working, taking things off of our plate, making more time for us in the day. But is it actually making them money? Like, how are we using? And then, dude, the team built Alfred about a week or 2 weeks ago.
Yep.
And I've been using it every single day. I was literally just using it yesterday when one of our agents was like, "Hey, I want to get involved in I want to get that Accelerate link, or the Apprentice link." The Apprentice is the program that we plug people into that want to take advantage and leverage our agent attraction offer, Funnel Pilot. And so all I did was pick the phone up through texts. I have Alfred's name saved in my phone, and I just said, "Hey, Alfred, send me the link to get somebody signed up for X, whatever it was." And it asked me one question: "Are you sure you want this and not this?" I'm like, "Yeah, no, I want that." Boom. I didn't have to go into my CRM. I didn't have to text Holly, which is what I've been doing for 3 years. "Hey, Holly, can you text me the link that you built me for this?" She's probably so sick of me. Now I just ask Alfred, and he gets it to me. But it's not theory. We're not hyping here. This is like Honey Badger Nation. It was built, this Accelerate Apprentice program, and Alfred's basically a coaching system in AI, an AI coach for real estate agents that invites prospects to our weekly call. It can also I want you to talk about it because Jeff is terror, dude. And I asked him to send me the information on this. He's like, "Dude, I got something else I'm building. Wait till you see the next one."
Yeah, this is Jeff's baby and Harley, but this has been and really I didn't necessarily see this angle and how much leverage it's creating as like, it wasn't the first thing that I thought of, like, hey, we could have it do this. But when it comes down to, I think about, like, when we had a team there, you tell me what your goal is. It starts with anything you want to do starts with what's your goal. What are you trying to do? Well, if you tell me, "Hey man, I really would like to make $5,000 a month in revenue share," we can back into how to get you there. Now, are you going to do it is another story. And what we've encountered in the last 8 years of being at EXP is that you're either having conversations. This is the same thing with buyers and sellers. I don't care what you're trying to do. If you want to sell more real estate, you better have more conversations with people that want to buy and sell in the next 90 days and are open to doing business with you, or you won't sell more real estate. So how do I help you get to having more conversations? Number of ways we can do that, but that is the nucleus of the kernel of the strategy, has to be around increased conversations. Same thing if you want to recruit an agent, you have to have enough conversations that you can get them to see the offer and ultimately make the switch. This cat is going bananas. This is Cooper. Coop, what's up? Say what's up. This dude is a maniac, bro. Like,
he's one of the new kittens.
Yeah, absolutely bonkers. He's a spitting image of Riggs, dude. Like, doesn't know when to quit, just won't stop. Like, drives me batshit crazy. Interesting. The other cat's more like Kinley, just over here sleeping, doesn't give a shit about what's going on. But
yeah.
And so with what it would require for you to actually get to a goal is, number one, did you actually make a commitment? Did you commit to doing something? How many invites do you have to, how many conversations, how many people did you invite to get 2 people? If you get 2 people on the call, one of them is probably going to join. So the math is the math based upon thousands and thousands of data points. We know the math. So, okay, this week, did you do it or not? As a leader, if you tell me what your goal is, and I tell you, hey man, you just got to get 2 people. If you get 2 people on this week and do that every single week, you're gonna recruit 4 agents a month, and you're gonna end up at a certain point. You're gonna end up with a certain number of agents, and that's gonna be worth this amount of money, and you're gonna be at $5,000 a month and this many months if you did it. The problem is if you got 25 agents underneath you that are committed to do this. Did you check in this week and make sure that they invited 2? What happened? Can you see that data? We would have it before. We would not only would we not probably be able to see how many invites were made, that it wasn't there wasn't a way to I'd have them pull it up every day, and we could do a daily huddle, and that would be how I would stay plugged into it. But what AI is doing is AI knows what your goal is, and it knows whether you did an invite or not. If there's any if there's no registrations, did you finish the core training or did you not finish the core training? So we got 696, I think it is, somewhere in that, almost 700 people that are, that are apprentices that said they want to do this. You said you want passive income of a certain amount, and you've committed, you decided, not us. We didn't tell you have to do this. You decided you wanted to do this and get some leveraged income coming in. Okay, here's the things you need to do. Did they do those things? If they didn't do those things, is it reaching out to them and saying, hey, you haven't finished that first, that first core training that we sent you, when are you going to finish it? It's starting to communicate as if it were me. Like if I was going to say, hey, man, this is where people fall off. Like, man, I'm going to send you this video. You got to go through the training. You know what we did? How many times did you say in 8 years at EXP, how many times did you get on a call with somebody 6 months later, you get back on a call with them. They're like, man, I really want to do this. Have you been through the training, the agent attraction training? That's what we would say on every call. Have you been through the agent attraction training? No, man, I haven't been through it. Okay, go through it. Now, now 6 months go by and you didn't do it, we wouldn't know that. We wouldn't know if you did or didn't. We would know because we never saw you again. You know what I'm saying? You never got on a call, never did a three-way call, never, we just, there's hundreds of agents that say it and they don't do anything. But if what Alfred's doing is Alfred's going, hey, all right, he ain't done it. Let me reach out to him. Let me stay on top of him. Hey, you said that you wanted to get, you need to get 2 people this week. On Monday, he's messaging, he's based on your goal, he's checking in with you. If you don't do it, he's still checking in with you and encouraging you. Hey, man, it's almost Thursday. You still got a little time. And then what we started seeing was all of a sudden out of nowhere, boom, that person would register someone. And then now Alfred's like, okay, if I say it this way, they do it. If I don't say it this way, they don't do it. Like it's learning and getting smarter about how it's encouraging you to get you to do what you said you were going to do in the first place. It's actually becoming a better coach over time. So now you got it's like having someone. This is what Dan Kennedy used to say. It was one of the best it was the best positioning I've ever heard for selling a course. It was like, imagine having Dan Kennedy looking over your shoulder every step of the way as you grow your business and right? Like, it was like, that sounds pretty good. Like Dan Kennedy's really smart. But this is literally having somebody looking over your shoulder, checking in with you at every step you're supposed to take in the time frame you're supposed to take it in order to get to your goal. And if you're doing it, and that's what it's getting people to take action that actions that never would have happened because they got busy and they're doing something else, and it's getting results. And the crazy thing about this is the multiplication effect is everybody that comes over to EXP, that nobody says, no, man, I don't want no passive income. Don't give me none of that. Nobody says that. Everybody says, yeah, I know a few people that could probably benefit from all this that y'all are doing. Okay, cool, man. All you got to do is here's your link. Well, what happens the next week? Man, where's my link? You can ask Alfred and Alfred will tell you. And so what happened, right? And so when the first thing is I never sent that text and said, hey man, did you watch the training? I never sent that. I should have, but I didn't do it to try to check in on him. Alfred's going to check in on him. And then if I had sent that text, some of them might've said, hey, where's that link? And then I would have been like, shit, where's the link? How do I get them back logged into this damn thing? I would have been lost. And now I'm the bottleneck because I don't know how to get them back logged in to get their link. Yeah. So because AI knows how, it just sends them their link. Here's your link. Here it is right here. Now go invite.
When I saw this for the first time, I don't know if you were on the Zoom when he first laid it out to like me and a few other people, but the first words out of my mouth is like, this is going to disrupt a portion of the coaching industry. Yeah. What happens when you hired Dan Kennedy and paid him tens and tens of thousands of dollars? You might have paid him well into the 6 figures for everything all in, right?
He's up there in the six in total with the mastermind and everything. Yeah.
Yeah. But the truth of it is Dan Kennedy wasn't over your shoulder at, finding out, did you do this? Did you do that?
In fact, Dan Kennedy was barely ever even in the mastermind. Bill Glazer was the one that read it.
Yeah. Yeah. So even with all the hoops that you had to jump through just to get him to coach you, which was all positioning and it's brilliant. Right. But think about it from like, if you're an agent and you're thinking like, hey, I might need a coach. What do you need that coach for? It's not like you don't need a coach say, did you make your 80 calls of the day or whatever? No, specifically, who do I need to follow up with today, Alfred? How close am I hitting to hitting my daily goal? What do I need to hit the gas on right now? How close am I hitting my weekly goal? It's these lead measures, which is what drives all of them. Tiny hinges swing the big doors. It's these little lead measures. And
100%.
even the best coaches in the world, even us, we weren't looking over everyone's shoulder, finding out, micromanaging. Did you do this day? How close are you? It's on the agent to do that. And when you guys rolled this out, I was like, dang, if I had somebody, like, how many buyer conversations did you have today? Like, you had someone tapping you on the shoulder being like, hey, did you do what you're supposed to do?
Yeah. And it's not, the crazy thing is, dude, like, think about the things that, like, you need to do it, but the thing that where you pause and you hesitate is usually when you're like, man, I got to figure out where that link is. I don't even know where to go, man. Fuck that. I'm not doing it today. Like, you just, like, it happens in the second you decide not to do something. And that's where this makes a difference. This makes a difference because it sends you a message and you're like, okay, I need to do this. What's my link? Okay. All right. Now I'm going to go do it. And that one split decision, because it's instant right there at your fingertips, is what makes the difference when somebody takes action versus somebody that uses an excuse for why they're not going to do something. They're not intentionally not doing it. They get busy. And if it's going to take me figuring something out, I'm like, man, I got time. I'll do that later. And then you hope you'll get around to it. And you just don't. And that's what happens to all of us all day, every day. There's things on your list you don't get done. And it's usually the friction of what it takes to get to that. And if you can remove all that friction, then people will take the actions. And we're seeing that happen. And AI is getting smarter at how to convince, how to say it to you so you'll do it. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's brilliant. It's insane. It's better than having me looking over the shoulder, because sometimes I don't get smarter. You know what I'm saying?
If you remember a couple decades ago when we were still in the grind, you know, and that's what we called it. Like, it was a badge of honor to say we were a grinder. 14 hours a day, 7 days a week. I'm grinding. You know, it was like a badge you wore. And this doesn't mean, you know, just randomly grinding. What Alfred helps with is it brings the scoreboard back in.
Yep.
You're not going to watch the Knicks playing the Spurs without the scoreboard, because it ain't fun. We don't know who's winning.
No.
And if you don't know if you're winning or not, like, that's what Alfred did. It brings the scoreboard back into reality in real time. Like, not just like, how many calls do I need to make? No, that was 2008. This is like, who needs a follow-up today? Who needs a call today? Who needs a text? Because Alfred's going into our database and looking at who needs it and bringing it right to your attention, making it easier. And that's not grinding. That's just working smarter. And I mean, this applies to seller conversations, buyer consultations. Which agent partner should I be reconnecting with if you're in the recruiting game? And that's the pace of today, man.
Yeah,
you know, it's calling numbers. Yeah, you're wasting money.
Yeah, I mean, we used to coach. You know, we always say everybody should have a coach. Me and Mike's the first book we were ever going to write, we bought a book called How to Write a Book, and we were going to name the book Being Coachable. Like, if you're just coachable, you know, and if you're coachable, you can have anything you want in life if you're coachable. If you're not coachable, I can't help you. Like, that was, you know, for the longest, that when we started everything, like, man, life is not that hard if you're coachable. So that's a mostly mindset for people. But what we didn't do as a coaching company is we couldn't in real time tell you exactly what you needed to do every day in real time. Like, we would have to look at a week's worth of, you know, hopefully you're telling us the truth about the data. You know, we didn't have that insight into seeing everything. And
sometimes AI, 2 weeks worth. These calls were every 2 weeks. Sometimes it was like every 2 weeks. That's like an eternity.
Yeah, and in 2 weeks, sometimes you get on that call. Sometimes there was enough back pressure of you having to get on the call with the coach that you stayed on your shit daily to, you know, that you didn't want to have. That's the benefit of having somebody look at it and say you didn't do what you say you're going to do. But most of those calls, 2 weeks go by, you had already got off of what you should have been doing daily. And you get on that call and we tell you to do the same thing we told you to do on the last coaching call. It was the ones that did that work in between the whistles that had enough mental toughness to do the shit they didn't want to do in between those whistles, that were the ones that built giant businesses like Chris Waters. Like, that. But the rest of us are normal people that get thrown off easily. you sometimes fall, and that 2 weeks ain't enough. In real time, if you had some, and it was easy and it removed the friction, that's what we're seeing. And we're just seeing it. We're seeing it. Like, we're seeing things happening that would have never happened before. And that's, and if you're building an organization at EXP, and this agent that we didn't know was going to ever recruit someone, he did it. And this person over here just did it. And this person, and that's not you having to check in on all of them. The geometric impact of that across an organization, fascinating. And that's where we're at the very beginning of this. Like, it's insane, the actual productivity that we're getting out of folks without more human capital and effort from you as the leader, or as whoever maybe brought that person in. There's things that we didn't do it. Al, you tell me, when you talk, you like, we got how many ever people that we personally recruited, how many times did you check in? Alfred never stops. Every week he's checking in. This is your goal. Okay, we need 2 this week. We're going to do it this week. Nope. What we saw happening was, the first week, no replies to Alfred. Alfred, like, he checking in, and you're like not replying to him. And then the next week,
right?
All right, what's my link? How do I get my link? Okay, here. This week you're on it. Boom.
Yeah.
Right. So we would wait, and then we would be like, never hear from him. And then they would get on a call with us, and they'd be like, all right, I'm ready. Like, Alfred is going to be checking in with you every week based upon your goal. And it's a constant reminder, so you don't forget what it is you're supposed to do. Where's my link? What am I supposed to do? What's the script? What do I say? What do I say to an agent that I just had a list? I just had showed a listing. I want to call the listing agent. What do I say? It's all right there at your fingertips, right there in the moment, and it's on top of you all the time, forever. That's a different level of coaching that we've never seen. Ever.
It's literally the one thing that I've seen. AI is being promoted. It could write your listing descriptions. It could do this. It could help you with your analysis of the market, all these things. This is the first thing I've seen that actually is moving the needle. And when I say moving the needle, I'm talking about pending sales, recruits. This is what Alfred's doing. And it's, you see a lot of toys that are like time wasters. Oh, this is fun to do. This actually moves the needle, and we're just getting started. I mean, if I had somebody over my shoulder telling me like, hey, you need to follow up with Jane and Steve Smith, I would forget about them. Like, if it wasn't like right there in front of me, and we're always on our phones, texting. Everyone's always texting. I get a text from Alfred. Hey man, you got to follow up with Alice Jones. Alice Jones, you talked to her 2 weeks ago. Which let's talk. Let's do a little segment into our next segment here. Okay. Yeah. Because we go from the coaching thing, right? And you can't win. No one's won an NBA title without a great coach. No one's won an NFL title, MLB, you go right down the line, soccer, all of it without the great coaching.
Yeah.
That's showing up with the Spurs and this amazing playoff. The Knicks won 13 straight playoff games, Jay.
Yeah.
I don't know that that's ever been done. Like,
I think one other team has Golden State did it, I think, in 2017.
All right. Well, I want to talk about Golden State.
Yeah. Well, being from Oklahoma, the Durant leaving and going there, and then them doing that. Yeah, I'm not too fond of that.
But these guys were beating, like, New York was beating the best teams in the world.
Okay? They were beating them bad.
They whooped on the Cavs like they were a high school basketball team, Division II. Like, it was embarrassing. They had the crowd, they had the streak going, and the Spurs came in last night and figured out a way to just stop that momentum cold, man. They had every celebrity on the
most hostile, probably the most hostile environment you could ever come into in Madison Square Gardens, New York, with a loud crowd, down 2-0, must-win game. That mentality you had to come in to that environment with to win that game. I haven't publicly been saying this, but I've been saying it after seeing Wemby live. I was like, man, I don't know if it's him or not. No, he's very stoic. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's out doing some weird stuff in New York yesterday, and I'm like, man, Jordan wouldn't have been doing that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know if he has that dog in him, but it seems like he might have that dog in him.
Right.
And what was I gonna say? Anyway, go ahead.
That quiet dog.
Yeah. I mean, he's definitely very stoic.
Yeah.
But we sat right behind the bench and the Oklahoma series, and dude, during the timeouts, Wemby's chewing that ass like he's on everybody, dude. He got a little dog in him for sure.
Oh yeah,
he's leading those young players, man. They're all young. He's young, 22 years old.
Oh,
but
yeah.
This is the first time that he's been in this level of the deep end of the pool, down 2-0, and to be able to win in that environment. And I think part of it is just, man, New York is just on such a high from going to San Antonio and taking 2 games at their home that, man, they just didn't come out with that same level of intensity that the Spurs had to play with. And at the end of the day, they pulled out the win. We'll see what happens in the next game. But it goes back 2-2. It's anybody's series again.
Well, if you're taking away any of this, if you're a loan officer or you're an agent, just remember there's always a way to win.
Yeah, when your back's against the wall, it's going to talk. Your character will be determined based on the hardest times you've ever faced, and that's what
adjust. You got to compete. I can tell you, like, if I were to try to put this into like our reality, I remember, I was not the number one listing agent. I would go against some serious powerhouses on a lot of my listings. And because I was doing a lot of marketing, when you're marketing on TV, radio, all over the magazines, Mimi's magazines, I was running these, spending all this money. I was getting leads, mostly people that didn't know me. These are strangers that saw my marketing and they responded to it. And I'm going in there.
That's not like a referral.
What's that?
That's not like a referral. People don't realize you can spend money in marketing, but you're talking about people that don't necessarily know, like, and trust you, but they thought of you first because they saw your marketing. And now you have to go in, you got to connect and become their best friend. You got to become the authority, and you got to convince them to listen to what you're going to tell them. That is not.
And this is nothing against anybody that runs their business. If you're able to make, multiple 6 figures, 7 figures on referral only, I don't know too many people that can and do. Good for you. That's awesome. That's not how listing appointments go when you're walking into a stranger's house where they don't know you. They may know you enough from your marketing. If you're a good marketer, and you have a great middle of funnel, cool. But when you're in there battling against the best of the best, I mean, I loved it, dude. I know you went against Pam and Barry. There's only one reason I know who Pam and Barry are, is because you went against my listing appointments every day.
Every day I competed against them. It was like playing against Jordan at every game of the year.
Yeah.
Dude, they were really good.
But there's a way. If you're out there, yes. I mean, if you're competing, there's a way. You beat Pam and Barry often, not every single time. No. I beat my competitors not every time, but often. And sometimes you got to adjust on the fly. You got to compete and get in there and compete. And this is a very competitive. It's only going to get more and more competitive as more agents drop out. Don't quit. Don't give up. Just get back to work. Like Elon. Are you working like Elon? That's the question. Like, are you approaching your business even half as serious as Elon? I mean, that dude don't sleep.
Dude, yeah. I mean, the real question is, this was one of the things that was a part of the coaching I went through with Craig Proctor back in the day, that it was a page a lot of people skip, but it was breaking down your top 3 competitors in your marketplace. Who are the 3 people that are winning the most, and what all are they doing? And then, because I competed against one of the top 10 Remax teams in the world every day, I got to learn what they were saying down to every word what they were using as leverage, how they would beat me, like why people would choose them instead of me. I became an expert on my competition. And when you know what everything your competition does that you don't do, that's, what you got to work on. You know what I'm saying? Like these teams playing in the NBA right now in the finals, they know what their competition is good at. They know what their competition is going to throw at them, and they got to be better in the next game at stopping them from doing what they're doing. And if you don't take that same level of approach to your real estate business, what is my competition? Who's winning the most, and what do they do? What do they say? How are they winning? And if you can't compete with that, you can't afford to spend money in marketing because you're just going to
They're
get an
watching
opportunity,
film, bro. They're
huh?
all watching the film. They're doing the
Right.
off court work. That's where they're winning. Yes, they
Yep.
got to win on court.
100% watching the film. What did
You're not
Wimby said
winning,
it after
yeah.
game one? One of the games, I can't remember. One of the games they lost, I think it was game one against the Knicks, and they were interviewing him after the game, and they were asking him some questions. He said, I don't know, I'm gonna have to go back and watch the film. And that is dedication. You didn't just go play a basketball game and then you're done. You're watching every play. Sometimes it's just an inch or two this way, one little difference in the way that you're making movements or passing the ball or what you missed that you didn't see that you should have seen. And that could, I mean, this was a 2-point game last night. One, practice your free throws. Like, how many of those free throws would you like to have last night that you missed on your team? How many of those guys are in the gym right now shooting free throws? Like, it's the basics, but it's doing the homework and being at that level. If you want to be a world champion, that's how you do it. There ain't no other way. And so, it's, I was never a world champion, but I was number 2 in the world. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was competing against, I had to, I didn't have a choice. It's either that or get beat every fucking day. I hate losing. Like, I was, all right, well, I got to figure out, what are they saying? I finally learned what they were saying a lot of times. They did this newspaper print, and they did a bunch of newspaper stuff. I used to do full page newspaper too, but I tracked it. And so I knew that they would lean heavy on that because I'd stopped doing it. And so this big, huge newspaper thing that they would do with all their listings, I said, do you want to know what the number one thing? I said, I used to do newspaper advertising, full page, full spread. I said, do you want to know how many calls I'd get on properties from that on Sunday? I said, guess. And they say, I don't know, 10. I said, I averaged 1 call every time I ran that. Now, it was good for my brand for me to do that. It was good for me, but it doesn't help you sell your house. I said, 1 call. And you know what that call usually was? Another real estate agent, not a buyer. I said, I'm going to invest the money you're investing in me into the places that are going to attract the most eyeballs to your home. Not that's going to give me the biggest, brand in the marketplace where you see me everywhere and you give me a call because I'm doing newspaper. The perception is that it was helping me sell homes. The data showed me it wasn't. So I stopped doing it. But now they come in and they're going, look at all our newspaper, blah, 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 right? They leaned heavy in on that. And I had educated them and created doubt that that wasn't going to help them get the most money for their house. So if I didn't know that, if I didn't do an autopsy after every time I lost a listing, I would have never known that that's why they listed with them. And that's how I was losing. That was just one thing. There's other things too, but you got to know your competition. That was the only way I could get that. That was me trying to get some film to watch.
Yeah, baby. Watch, ladies and gentlemen, listen to this gold right here. If you're not doing that, you're gonna plan on missing out on a lot of the listings that you were hoping you're gonna get.
Even if you're not playing.
Top 3 competitors in the market.
Yep.
Studying those, pop them into ChatGPT or whatever. Lay out like what are their marketing angles? What do you think they're saying? And then of course asking the questions and knowing who your competition is so that you can preemptively squash it before it even becomes an issue. I know that you're going to be meeting with Pam. You got an appointment with her tomorrow. She's going to put some newspapers in front of you and tell you that you're going to.
I wouldn't even act like I knew. I would just say I used to invest. It's crazy. I spent thousands of dollars doing newspaper, but it wasn't until I started tracking the data. You're not going to believe this. Guess how many calls I would get on something, and they guess I made a game out of it. And that in their mind, they're like, that makes sense, right? And so when somebody else comes in saying how great it is, they're like, that shit ain't gonna sell my house, right? And that's what I was trying to create without me saying.
They're asking them questions that they weren't prepared for, like how many calls do you get off of these newspapers? And then they squirm and have to lie.
Yeah. It was it was fun, but at the same time, it was because I was trying to be the best. I wanted to win, and I don't care if you're brand new. If you're brand new, you should go see. First of all, you're going to learn 90% of what you need to learn by seeing what your top 3 people in your market are doing. Because they're winning at a high level. It's not going to be a lot of things that they're doing that you shouldn't do. So you're going to learn a lot about what works and what doesn't work. And number one, but know who your competition is, know who the best are, and then find that chink in their armor and create a way to beat them. Right.
Yeah. Exploit it. No, I love it, dude. Let's talk about someone else who's the most brilliant. I'm just going to say he's the most brilliant human being on earth right now. SpaceX IPO, the
moonshot, baby.
That was built on really, dude, boring execution. I mean, there was a lot of failures that, some people like to talk about those, but I mean, all those led up to Friday. Big day on Friday, IPO day. Elon is going public with the SpaceX massive IPO, the largest in history. And whether people want to talk about the valuation or the raise or the stock, the better lessons, the vision. And Elon paid his dues, dude. Like, this didn't happen overnight.
Yeah.
People see the launch. They don't see the failed tests. They see the valuation. They don't see all the years of pressure and what it took for him to puzzle this thing together the way he has. Absolutely brilliant. I still have people texting me telling me that it was the guy that was telling me it was a bad investment. He's like, oh, you should have invested in this other rocket company. This is, he's actually a financial advisor. He runs a family, what's it called? A family office.
Yep.
For a bunch of super wealthy people. And all he's been doing, dude, I don't even know this guy. His name's Dan. Nice enough guy, I guess. But he's always texting me every bit of like negative news that he could find. He's texting me. Meanwhile, we've already 8x'd before it hasn't even gone public yet. Our investments in SpaceX. But what's about to happen is just, it's cool that we're actually here. Like, we're living in today's world that people are going to get to witness this. But most agents, they want their IPO moment. They want the big organization, the big month, the big listings and commission, but they're not paying their dues. And that's kind of like what we've talked about in this whole theme here. But what are you most excited about Friday, man?
Dude, I mean, the first thing,
hey,
blessed to thank you, Chris Lazos. Thank you, Puerto Rico. Some of the things that came out of Puerto Rico were the relationships and the investments. This was one of them. And so, yeah, dude, I mean, I think it's, you're either, this is your opportunity to get into here's where the future is going. You can invest in a whole lot of different things, but there's no question that this is where everything is headed. And if you can invest in anything right now, this is one of the things to be invested in. 100%. No question about it. Crazy. Yeah. I mean, it's crazy to try to justify the valuation and all of that. But dude, I listen to the Moonshots podcast. I know you do too. Peter Diamandis. If you're plugged in right now, man, there's going to be a lot of money going into SpaceX.
Check this out. So when you're obviously, any kind of these early investments, there's big risk and everything. And we talk about, do you bet on the jockey or the horse? In this case, we're betting on the jockey and the horse. I mean, This is where everything's going, and no one can touch him in the verticals that he's building. There's talk of him bringing Tesla in after the IPO and merging the two. I don't know if that's going to happen or not.
There's one video, dude. Mike circulated this to us, and it was, with anything right now, especially with AI and everything, what is your defensible differentiating position? And right now it's like an arms race in AI. It's like, this, I'm better. Okay, now I release one and I'm better. Now I'm better. They're just getting better, incrementally better. And there's no real defensible differentiated value proposition in any, whether it's, Codex or Claude or OpenClaw or whatever other, Hermes or whatever you call it. They're all basically a commodity to a certain degree. And so there's no defensible differentiation. When you watch the video on SpaceX and they're defensible, how defensible what they built is, and how no one is ever going to be able to compete against it ever. That's what you bet on. Like, you bet on this is what Jack Welch used to say in his book Winning, is when he was the CEO of what is it? What was he the CEO of? Tide and all the different companies, GE. What he said, what's the if you don't have a differentiated value differentiated value proposition, then don't compete, because you can't win. Like, you have to. This is everything we've ever taught has been based on differentiation and your value proposition, and how do I make a reason why you should do business with me versus anyone else. But when you look at the model of how SpaceX is set up and how it feeds other opportunities, and why they did everything, Elon did everything the way he did, you can't. It's an indefensible. You cannot beat them. You will never be able to, at the price that he can do what he's doing. You'll never be able to compete with him, and that's why you invest in it. In my opinion, that's why you invest in it. When they can make that argument and show you why they're going to win, that's anything can happen, but that's what sold me. I was like, that's unbelievable. I'm trying to think the damn video. I'm going to find it, because I'm going to share it if I can find it.
Yeah, Google it or GPT it, or look for it if you're looking to see that. I actually have not seen that, but I did read this. Talk about changing lives. Before I get into that, we'll end on this because I read something that about all the employees. There's over 4,000 employees that are becoming millionaires because of, on Friday. Think about that. That's 4,000 families who've never had they've never seen seven figures in their bank accounts, and they're going to be wealthy. They're going to have a decent amount of wealth. I'm not saying that if you have $1 million, you're wealthy. I don't think that that's a true statement anymore. It used to be. You used to be wealthy when you had $1 million, not so much anymore. But that's $1 million is a big deal to, an employee who's making, 80, 100 grand a year, whatever they're making, like $1 million. But before that, I kind of wanted to, talk about verticals. What you're talking about right now, they're indefensible, like their defensible position, their value proposition is because of the vertical. Kind of unpack that from, the amount of cargo that Elon can put into space for the lowest amount. No one can even remotely touch that.
Right.
It means we can, with his rockets, everyone else has to use his rockets to get their stuff up into space, whether that be satellites, whether that be data centers. I just saw a video last night on what these data centers are going to look like with the radiator and then all the chips in the middle. It's fascinating stuff. And how little bit of the sun's energy that we're actually using. It's like less than 1/trillionth of what we could be using right now. So, I mean, the space is wide open, but talk about the vertical, because you got SpaceX, the rocket company. By the way, that in itself is massively profitable. Yep. Then we have our satellites, our drawing a blank here. Starlink. Thank you. You got Starlink. Then you got XAI that's going to power it all. Then we got, if he merges Tesla in, and we didn't really kind of open the segment with Tesla, but it's worth talking about because there's massive orders being put in right now for robo semis. Robo semis are going to start over the next 5 years. We're going to just start seeing more and more robo semis out there. No drivers. They're supposed to be 20x more safe, less accidents, speeding tickets. I mean, the amount of money being able to save, not having to pay a driver. I was a truck driver over the road for years before I was a real estate agent. I knew that life. It's not the best life, by the way. I can tell you, when you're on the road 6 days a week and you're home 1 day a week, it sucks. It's not good to have a family. Your family life suffers. You think real estate agents suffer? Truck drivers, and so these are the things that he's able to disrupt. But talk about that vertical you're talking about. That's where I think most people are missing it, is they're not seeing that he put all the puzzle pieces together.
Yeah.
That's why
he's trying to find the video. The video, you have to watch the video. I think he sent it in a text to me and you, but it was, and you can't Google SpaceX right now without getting.
Oh God, yeah.
Let me try this. We'll put it in the comments.
We'll post it up. All good. All right, my man. Well, it was a great segment. Appreciate you as always. We're gonna keep we're gonna keep building stuff for agents to be able to set them free, earn them more income, and we'll see them at the top. So
that's it.
Great segment.
Later, man.
Out there.
Yep.